Hello, everybody. This is Don from Wizard Tower Games. I hope everybody's having a good Tuesday night. Um, Figure tonight we'll talk a little bit about game design, kind of differentiate between role-playing game, book type game design, and board game. Maybe get a little bit about a card game design, and take questions, do all that good stuff. And yeah, I'm getting notified that Twitter doesn't support live streams anymore unless you're part of Twitter Premium. So let me click off that real quick. And so yeah, so hope everybody's having a good night tonight. Oh, what do we talk about? Game design. All right. Hey, how you doing, St. Cuthbert? Game design. Now, a lot of people do it a lot of different ways, and I'm going to first get into a little thing about typical role-playing game design, how I do it, play testing, how I do it, when does play testing take place, when does primary role completion take place, artwork and all that. Now, how I like to do a typical role-playing game is, we all start off with a rough subset of rules. Hopefully that you've played a little bit with maybe friends or family or, your own play testers. But with us, we have a couple local game shops in the Grand Rapids area and also Lansing and Battle Creek and Kalamazoo that we deal with. And what we'll do is we'll take our core game that we have written up like in a Word doc, if you will. Just a rough subset of rules. Sorry, that's my cat wanting attention. And what we do then is we take those and we will play test those at a very early stage. We just kind of do it doesn't have to really be a massive doc. It might be maybe 30 or 40 pages of rules. And it's just the core basic mechanics. Like how does magic work, or how does combat work? The basic core rules for it. And I'm a believer in you play test those immediately. Some game companies will play test later. I like to play test right up front. And the reason why I like to play test right up front, because I kind of get up front then and let me know where my plot issues are, or not plot, my potholes with rules are, my issue with the rules are. But I always start off with a Word document, might be 50, 60 pages deep, with just the core basic mechanics. One of the biggest problems with role-playing games, I think, these days is creating something new, something interesting. Everyone knows about Shadow Dark, the new one that's just out. People really like it. I've looked at the subset of rules. I think it's really interesting. We're getting ready to come out with Open Worlds, our own role-playing game system, which we use a thing called the task level system. So once we have the core set of rules done, what I always suggest to do is you play test them out, have a play test form. We have a specific form that we give all of our play testers while they're playing the games. And it all has the same information, asks basic questions about the game, it's about 10 questions, 10, 12 questions. And then what ends up happening is they fill it out. The only demographics we want to know is we want to know male or female, or what their gender is. We want to know what their age is and their first name. That's it. And the reason why we want the gender and the age is because we're trying to get age demographics and gender demographics about what appeals to, a certain gender, what appeals to a certain age group, and that type of thing. And that can be really valuable for you, because if you're making a game and that game is targeted, let's say in your mind, you want to target that game to, people between the ages of 20 and 40, and you have your 20 and 40 group giving not good reviews of it, but the age group of, let's say, 20 and under really love it, then you have to do a little bit of shifting around, taking a look at what they do like, what they don't like, and what your target demographic likes. Then what you do, or what we do, is once we do the basic play testing, now we have our feedback back, we tweak our rules, and then we go ahead and we send it off. And what we do is we send it off just for a brief edit, a preliminary edit. Parasocial audience, how you doing? Hope you are doing well tonight. And then what we'll do then is we sit down and we do what we call an art plan. I like to basically look through it and decide where do I think art is going to get placed in the rules? So I start off with rough set of rules. I play test those rough set of rules. I enter all that feedback. I tweak the rules, and then I kind of do like an art brief on it, a walkthrough of it. Where do I want my artwork at? What kind of artwork am I looking at? Do I want to go full color? Do I want to do a black and white game? If I do full color, what is the style of art? Am I looking for something real classic, real classic graphics like Matt Forsyth does, or am I looking for something more anime-ish? What? We're kind of going through that right now with Snarkberries with Polly Kidd. We're right now, Polly has an artist, and her artist is now starting to feed us artwork. So I'm getting a really good feel of the style artwork that Polly wanted within the game. So since we're involved now in primary layout of Snarkberry, that will allow us to go ahead and start inserting that artist's artwork. So, and then we get into preliminary layout. I have 2 rounds of edits I like to do on my RPGs, my core RPGs, and that is I like to do a brief pre-edit before I begin layout, and then I like to do a full-scale layout and then have an editor walk through it and hit the layout pretty heavy on editing. Once we get all that done, and then what we do is we put basically art placement, boxes, where we want art while we're laying it out. Once that's done, then we go back through again, and we'll walk through it again, and we'll kind of take a look at, did I really want a piece of art right there or whatnot? And the layout always gets tweaked. So I was asked actually today a question by somebody, and they said, what's the hardest part about doing a role-playing game? I think the hardest part of a role-playing game is artwork and editing. And then the third hardest part of that is making something unique, something different, unless you're trying to, unless you're doing something 5e compatible, or unless you're doing something AD&D compatible. Parasociality says, the one thing I learned in convention gaming was how many rules are understood differently, even by those who play a lot and think the rules are very clear. One of two. Yes, and that's another thing. That's the whole important thing about playtesting, I think, because the way we do our playtesting forms, in fact, what I can try to do here while I got everybody right here, I can try to pull up one and I can show you what our playtest forms look like. Because the idea behind, let's take a look here. Hold on. And then Parasocial continues, how often do you revise rules with new printings? As needed. Because no matter how much you think, especially when it comes to editing, no matter how well you think you've edited it, you're always going to run into something. And you're always going to run into issues with editing. Oh, where are you at? Why are you not coming up? I just redid my computer. I made it more organized. So, go figure. Let me pull. My apologies. I actually wanted to pull this playtest form out. Here we go. Let me pull this up real quick. Okay. This is one of our standard playtest forms that we utilize. Let me go ahead and share screen. All right. This is one of our standardized playtest forms that we use. We ask name, age, gender. We ask certain basic questions regarding the game, and that is, did the game seem original? Were the rules understandable? Was the game length okay? Is the game okay for kids 13 and older? We want to know that because sometimes you may have content in there that may not appeal to kids, that may not be appropriate. And we want to make sure things are appropriate. Would you play this game again? Would you buy this game? Would you consider this game inclusive? And then when we clarify, by inclusive we mean, is this game welcoming to all races and genders? Was any content offensive in any way? If they say yes, what is it? We want to know. Name one thing you liked about the game. And then we want to know something that you did not like about the game. I think it's extremely important because sometimes people feel a need to give all high marks, but we want people to tell us where our problems are at. I want a play tester to say, this is what I did not like about the game. We ask about name another game that you love because it kind of gives us an idea of what they're into. And then what is a fair price for this game? We want people to tell us what they would pay for it. And then we have a comment section, and they're free to give us any feedback. Now, the reason why we say first name only, let me find this real quick, right there, first name only, is that we don't want the person's last name. We don't want them to say, oh, gee, they're going to know exactly who I am. Some people just put playtester 4 because they're in slot 4. And then if they want their name listed as a playtester, we have a box to the right that basically just says, if they want their name listed as a playtester, put their name down and sign it. And that's a permission slip for us to go ahead and publish their name into the game. Because what we want to do is we want to make sure we just don't use their name. Or some people want their name as a playtester in our game book. So like in the open worlds, we have a page which is the credits page. Then we have a separate page for playtesters. Special thank you. We list all the people's names who want to be a playtester with open worlds. Right now we got about 33 or 34 that want their names listed. And then we had another 100 or so that did not. So, it's a process. And I actually had a gentleman reach out to me right before I started this video. He has a game that he wants laid out, a role-playing game, and set up for his home game. Terry, how you doing? John, how you doing? You're welcome. And John, Terry, by all means, drop your feedback. I love to talk, answer questions, and do. But to me, the biggest thing about a role-playing game is the play testing. I'm not going to name the company, but I was associated with the company real briefly before who did not play test, unless it was with only 2 other people and they were designers of the game themselves. And I'm a firm believer in I play test my game. Yeah, sure, I play the game I develop, but I got to get that outside feedback along with the game. And then, so timeline for role-playing games. I got asked, that was part of the questions I got asked earlier today was, how long do you think it would take to do a role-playing game? It all depends on your resources. It depends on how quick you work. Do you know how to lay a manual out? Are you farming any of it out? Do you have an editor right now? Do you have the money to hire an editor? A typical RPG, well, like with open worlds, this is going to sound crazy, but I actually, open worlds is part of a core system I developed when I was younger. And the first iteration of open worlds was called Ultraverse, and that was actually laid out and done in 2013, so 11 years ago. And I pulled it because I didn't like the way it was, and I went ahead and I began resetting up, and open worlds has been in development since about 2021, summer of 2021. So I'm at 3 years now. We'll have the player's handbook, or the core game engine, which has the players. We put in our game, we put the players' content along with the GM's content. A little different, a little unique. So doing a little bit different, but we'll probably have the core engine out by the end of the year, if not the first part of the year. So 3.5, 4 years, start to finish. Some people can get it out quicker if you have a dedicated team of people working on it. But Wizard Tower Games, we have a lot of projects going on, and we kind of divide up time among everything. Now, as far as a board game goes, board games are a really unique animal, because with board games, there's a whole lot of things you gotta keep in mind. Board games, you need to play test. I think, even more than a role-playing game, because the problem with a board game is board games are different than RPGs. RPGs, people toss into a book, they'll go to a game shop, they'll play it. RPGs, Board games, though, tend to stay at a home. They'll put them on a shelf, and what you want is you want people to have that replayability. And that's one of the biggest problems with a board game is how can you keep that, like if I sit down with the typical board game and I play it, I love the game and I play it every weekend for 4 or 5 weekends straight, sooner or later you begin to get tired of it. It becomes the same old, same old. And the idea behind a board game is, and before we tackle any board game, we really look into it because a board game has to have replayability. And that was the nice thing about D20 Delving, is that D20 Delving, because of the unique nature of the game, has replayability. It's always different. You're never going to get the same game twice. And for us, in developing a game like D20 Delving, is you got to have a basic plan for the game. You have to have your basic game mechanics for the game, and then you have to go ahead and the big thing is art. A million questions go with a board game. A role-playing game, the questions involve rules. Same thing as a board game. The unique aspect of a board game is, how big is my board going to be? Am I going to do a small 12 by 12? Is it going to be a 14 by 14? Is it going to be a 29 by 18? Is it going to be a 26 by 16? Lots of questions about, you got to get a board down. So once you decide on your board, are you going to use tokens? If so, what kind? Are you not going to use tokens? You're going to use 3D printed figures. Great. Who's going to design your figures for you? Because you got to have unique figures for the game. What's the baseline mechanical engine behind it? Are you rolling 2 6-sided dice like in Monopoly? Are you going to go ahead and roll 1 6-sided dice? Are you going to roll 20-sided dice? What is the mechanic to move? You know, so you have board design you got to worry about. The artwork on the board design. You got to worry about the tokens or the figures. Like I said, figures are very unique because you got to get those figures designed by somebody. 3D design, getting you STL files ready for figures is expensive to develop. You can have $200-300 in one figure. Sometimes as low as $100. And then along with that, okay, I have my 6 figures for my board game. How are you going to make them? Are you going to go ahead and you're going to invest in a large format 3D printer like we do, and you're going to print your own figures? Or are you going to go ahead and you're going to hire a company like in China to manufacture? And manufacturing is a whole different animal. I'll get to in a minute. You're going to have cards with the game. If so, what are the card sizes going to be? How many different kind of cards you're going to use? You know, a million questions revolve around a board game. There's no status standard quo about doing a board game. But that kind of jumps into, along with role-playing games, my final little bit on game design is manufacturing. How are you going to manufacture your game? Now, the biggest problem that people have in manufacturing is they have a choice. They can go stateside or they can go overseas. And China is the place to go if you're going to go overseas. But the problem with going overseas is that overseas manufacturing has a lot of issues that can crop up. And we're going to take customs totally out of it. Okay? When you're dealing with a Chinese manufacturer, you have to understand the way they talk. And the way they talk can sometimes be confusing because the way Chinese manufacturers give you quotes as an example. Let's say, I'm using a board game as an example. Let's say you have a board game and you've got cards and you've got tokens and you got all of that. You got to be careful of figures because what they'll do is they'll charge you what they call a mold fee. That's taking your figures and making molds for them that can run literally into thousands of dollars. Minimum $700-800 to create molds. Parasocial says, do you ever interact with U of Georgetown Board Gaming Channel, U.S. Army War College War Gaming Department, U.S. Navy College War Gaming Department, Rand Corporation Games? No, I do not. The U.S. Army War College of Gaming, or War Gaming Department, and the U.S. Naval College of War Gaming Department, I think that they do deal with outside game companies, but I think they only deal with really large game companies, is what I think they do. And I think it's all by contractor base. I may be wrong. Scott, how you doing? So you have to be very careful and you have to know their lingo. They're not going to tell you that they're going to do playing cards, 2.5 by 3.5 inches. First of all, it's all going to be metric. Number two, they'll tell you that they're going to provide you with, 120 millimeter by 310 millimeter, 300 GSM, and they have their very unique lingo that the way they talk. There's a lot of hurdles you deal with in China. Timeline hurdles, because China is I think they're about 10 or 11 hours ahead of us. So right now in China, it's about 6:30 in the morning, I believe, or 7:30 in the morning. So you have to be able to communicate a little bit later than what you normally would. Most Chinese manufacturers are very, very prompt with their email because they want your business, because there's so many businesses in China that make games, and it's a highly competitive market. But again, you got to know the lingo. They talk metric. For us Americans, that can be problematic if you don't know it. And they tend to talk in the deliberate manner of like how heavy the chipboard is and that type of thing. And then, especially with doing a board game, you have some added issues, and your added issues is you just don't buy a box with a bunch of components and they just dump the components in there and they ship it to you. What you need to make sure is when the person takes your game and they lift that cover off that box, people want to see it nice and neat. So there's trays that they have to specifically design. And a lot of Chinese companies have standard trays, but if you have something oddball, like with D20 Delving, we have several different decks that do different things, and you got like a player character deck, and you've got figures, and you got dice, and all those goodies. There's an insert that goes in there that has to have all of that. Well, they have to vacuum form that. They have to make a blank for that. Now, yes, they have modular blanks that they can basically very quickly set it up, but they don't tell you that, and they still charge you for that, and those are setup fees. And then the big one is shipping, because depending on how many games you want to buy, shipping can really cause you a huge hit to your margin. If you're doing a game, as an example, a board game, and you're retailing it, let's say for $50, okay, and you go look at your Chinese, quote, and it's $18 a game, you're like, oh, 18, 28, 38, 40, I'll make $20 or $32 a game. I'm good. Well, not really. Because what ends up happening is for them to ship those games over. And if you're only ordering 500 games, you could have upwards of $2,500 to $3,000 in shipping, depending on how they do it. It could be less, but it still could be right, or it could be high like that. And shipping can really eat into your margins. So if you're going to go overseas, this is the reason why most Chinese manufacturers have what they call minimums. And a lot of times their minimums are like 1,000, 1,500, 2,000, 2,500 copies. I know of a couple really reputable Chinese manufacturers, and some of them have minimums of 5,000. And they just do it because they just know that it's not worth their time to manufacture small amounts. US-based manufacturers, again, they can be problematic because they're so expensive. We have a local here in Battle Creek called Delano Games. Delano Games, I believe, has a $2,500 a game minimum. And they're nowhere near Chinese prices to boot, even when you buy $2,500. Places like the Game Crafter, and I'll say something about the Game Crafter. Game Crafter puts out a nice product. They really do. But the Game Crafter is more geared towards, I need a couple of games to show on my Kickstarter. I need a couple of demo games to play it out. I want to see what my game's going to look like. So you're willing to pay 70, 80, $100 for one board game because you just want it in your hand. Or you're a home-based maker. You've designed a board game. You're only going to make 3 or 4 copies of it because you want to give it away to Christmas or have some copies yourself to be able to just say, see what I did, play with your friends. So you're not going to mind spending, what would normally cost in China 18 or 19 bucks because you're buying in quantity. You may spend 80, 90, 100, 120 bucks on it with Game Crafter. And Game Crafter, like I said, Game Crafter does nice work, but their market segment is not traditional publishing. Their market segment is 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe half dozen, 10 copies at the most POD, that's what their niche is. Places like DriveThru RPG and I think Drive Cards through RPG, DriveThru Cards RPG or whatever, again, they're more targeting that niche market. And that's why like DriveThru RPG with the RPGs goes through places like, I believe, Lightning Source. Lightning Source is a massive POD operation. And I'm just going to say something about Lightning Source because it's a fact, and I'm not trying to be a jerk or nothing. I always promise to be honest on my videos and everything, is I don't recommend Lightning Source to anybody. And the reason why I don't recommend Lightning Source to anybody is because when they do good quality, they do good quality. But when they get it wrong, they get it wrong. I ordered through DriveThru RPG because I don't want to use my nice Orange Spine classic AD&D books while playing. I ordered the Dungeon Master's Guide, Player's Handbook, and Monster Manual 1 from them, which is the reprint, the POD. And I ordered them. I ordered the Dungeon Master's Guide and the Player's Handbook one day, and the next day I ordered the PHB one, I believe, and I ordered the the Unearthed Arcana, excuse me. So 2 different orders. I got them in literally on the same day, 2 different boxes, and I was like, oh, great. Open it up. Dungeon Master's Guide was great. Player's Handbook was great. Open it up, and I believe it was Player's Handbook is great. And then I got my my Unearthed Arcana, and my Unearthed Arcana literally had pages falling out of it loose. So that's the risk that you get also. And let me tell you something. What you do not want to do is order, a couple hundred hardcover RPGs, and here they come, and you're all excited, and you open them up, and 10, 15, 20 of them are bad quality or not done right. Another suggestion I offer, and this is going to be something that anyone who doesn't do this, I'm sorry, I'm just going to be really mean sounding here. If you do not do what I'm getting ready to tell you to do, you're a fool. If you do game design, you are absolutely screwing yourself. And that is, I do not care how good you are. I do not care how awesome you are at game design, layout. I don't care how many successful runs you have underneath your belt. Get a proof copy. 1 copy, maybe 2. But get a proof copy. 1 for you. Two is optimal. 1 for you and 1 for somebody else to walk through. Because your proof copies are going to be, number 1, where you're going to see if all your alignment's right, your spine alignment's correct, how that text lays. You're going to see things like how the colors look on printing. There's a big difference and I'm going to pick on Lightning Source. Because I believe Amazon KDP also does the same type of printing that Lightning Source does. Like as an example, their cover quality is beautiful, but get the heavier page, the 70-pound paper. Get the heavier paper because it's beefier, the color lays better on it, and also take a look at going premium color. But again, once you go premium color, you'll see your price. I mean, premium color can add on an average hardcover book, I believe, probably $5 to $7 per book. And if you're trying to retail a book like everybody else does, $39, $49, $54-ish, and you're doing low run, and low run with a lot of people, they don't understand what low run is. People think all the time, well, I'm ordering, a couple hundred copies. That's a lot. No. That's a very, very low run. So if you're doing low run, the price of your books to begin with, especially if you go in color and hardcover, are going to be really expensive. Black and white printing is relatively cheap. You can still make a really good margin on black and white printing. But the problem with people today, people like that color. And I'm a member of several OSR groups. I'm a member of several 5e groups. And I see the argument happen all the time where we don't need color. We'll just go black and white. You can do that. Absolutely. But people do tend to like color. Me and Paulie Kidd just had this discussion, as a matter of fact, the other day when we were talking on video. We were kind of getting down to Snarkberries, and we're getting ready to get Stars and Sails fired up. And we decided to go with color. And then me and St. Cuthbert are doing a module. And we're getting ready to get into fine line layout on that. And that's going to be black and white. Because I'm a firm believer. Modules can be black and white. 30, 40, 50 pages, 54 pages. It's black and white. It's an adventure module. All of our modules will be black and white. But the core games, a core engine game, I believe needs to be colored, just because, especially if you're going to go full scale RPG. If you're doing something small, quick start rules, something like that, go black and white. But if you're going to go full 8.5 by 11, hardcover book, even soft cover, and you want to get that game out there, people like color. They just do. So that's the big thing. And one more thing about Chinese manufacturing. You need to make sure, and Chris Clark, my friend Chris Clark, I talked to him on the phone, and he kind of keyed me in this months ago, is there's a little thing with Chinese manufacturing, is they'll have the shipping address, usually on the bottom of your estimate, because they want to give you a shipping quote. And they'll have like, and I forget the exact code, but they'll have shipping, and then there'll be a 3-digit code. That 3-digit code is critical to what they're guaranteeing you. You always want to make sure that the 3-digit code, you can Google this, designates that it's to your door. And the reason why you want it to designate to your door is because what you want to make sure is, and we're just now winning this battle over D20 Delving, is even though Customs held it and then released it, but there's storage fees, we're kind of holding the Chinese manufacturers' feet to the fire now because they guaranteed us to our door. Not our responsibility. We didn't touch that package. That package came to the United States. Customs, the Chinese manufacturer knows, is a designated part of the end processing. And if there's a problem, that's not on us. That's on them. And we're now getting headway with them, and I think they're gonna go ahead and they're gonna eat it and get our books our board games released to us. So you always want to make sure that the Chinese manufacturer that you're dealing with is reputable also. And again, and here we go with another one that I see all the time is game publishers act like suppliers are top secret government Area 51 secrets. Don't be afraid to reach out to another game company and say, hey, I got a question for you. I'm dealing with XYZ Chinese game manufacturer. Do you know of these people? Can you recommend them? Or do you recommend a game manufacturer? Game companies should have no problem going, you know what, there's a bunch of them out there. There's a game, I'm going to give a few of them out here right now for everybody. There's a game company called Panda. Panda is a game company in China. They have a high minimum, but they do top-notch quality work. They give you good pricing, providing you meet their minimum. They guarantee door-to-door, to your door, and they don't mess around. They have a specific system they follow. Their system makes sense. Their system works, and you can go ahead and utilize them. That's another one. Another one's called Shenzhou. They are another one in China, I believe in Shenzhou, China, that deals in they'll do board games, RPGs, card games. They have a lower minimum. I believe Panda has a 3,000 game minimum or 3,000 RPG minimum. I think Shenzhou will do 2,000 or 1,800. So, again, if you're just someone home-based, China may not be for you, especially if you're doing an RPG, because you can go to some place like Lightning Source. But again, with places like Lightning Source, you're really gambling on quality. I know people who deal with them and they have wonderful luck with them. I'm not going to take a chance with them based on my stuff through DriveThruRPG. I just can't. So that's why we do it ourselves. Now, as far as us and game manufacturing, we're going to be probably towards the first of the year really start putting out their manufacturing services for companies, and it's going to be low yield. So these are going to be, and I'm not going to go quite like GameCrafter does, but what I'm going to do is we're going to offer low quantity book and board game manufacturer, which means if you're a publisher and you want to do 25 or 50 books, we'll be happy to help you out. Or if you want to do low yield board games, like maybe making, I don't know, maybe making about a dozen, 50, 100, whatever, will probably be your good company for that. And we'll be putting more information out towards the end about that. So yeah, game design. It's a really weird, really iffy thing. Everybody has their own system. I could have 10 game guys in here, gals, and all 10 of them are going to do it differently. It's kind of a comfort level. Now, software. I get asked this all the time. What software do I use? Everybody hates on it. I love CorelDRAW. And the reason why I like CorelDRAW is because CorelDRAW is not the CorelDRAW that you're probably used to when you were a kid. CorelDRAW X9 is probably one of the finest vector-based, layout-based programs you can use. I love it. I also use Adobe InDesign. I do photo manipulation, image manipulation by Adobe Photoshop, and then with Corel, also there's a program called Corel Photo that I use, which is sort of like Photoshop, if you will. And those are my main programs that I use, because I can get pretty much done anything that I want to do using those programs. And I know a lot of people, and I've gotten flack for this before, going, Corel, yeah, exactly, Corel. Like I said, it's not the design software that you probably are used to of many, many years ago. I started using it right around Corel 13 X3, and it wasn't bad then, but now they're top notch. That you can really, really tweak imagery and really, really get a nice layout for a book. I use it for my book layout, even better than InDesign. I like it more in InDesign. Thias asks, he says, what do you use for word processing? I use Word, just for standardized word processing, Microsoft Word. It just works for me and such. Thias says, you were doing Avalon Hill type Hex Encounter board game, just 1 or 2 copies. Yeah, we can do that. That's easy. I got no problem doing something like that. Sure. If it's a game that you have the rights to, there's one thing we can't do. We can't publish, or we can't print for other people games that are the property of other people. So like if you have a PDF from WotC and you want to go ahead and like D&D, and you say, Don, I want you, and we're not Lulu. If you want to go ahead and you have, like I said, let's say a Dungeon Master's Guide PDF through Wizards of the Coast for AD&D, and you go, I want this put in hardcover. We can't do that because that's actually a violation of Wizards of the Coast IP. And Wizards of the Coast is really like picky. But if you have an Avalon Hill style game that you've developed, and you just want a couple copies, sure, we can help you out. Absolutely. Drop me an email. Let me do this real quick. Get my glasses on. And that is our email address that you can go ahead and send us some basic info to, Parasocial. So yeah, word processing, we use just standard Word. Email, I'm just trying to kind of go through what are you going to do? I mean, email, we have, we were using Gmail exclusively. Now we use Outlook, and we have our own email address, info@wizardtowergames.com. The problem is some companies, and me and St. Cuthbert ran into this, some companies will block. It's called, you need to be whitelisted with them. So like if we send out email to AT&T email address, we normally will get it kicked back because they'll reject us. So we keep our Gmail account, we go into Gmail and we go ahead and pop it off. Parasol says, oh, well, I'm a war game designer in my fantasy. I don't think anyone else would really like them. Okay, I'm going to disagree with you, and I'm going to tell you the reason why. You got to have faith in yourself. If you're going to go ahead, if you created something, there's nothing wrong with, if you've got the time and the money, why not develop it? Why not get 1 or 2 hard copies of it and show it to your friends and play it with your friends and enjoy what you've created? The biggest problem that I think with a lot of people when it comes to game design is they lack faith in themselves. It's a big step. It's a massive step to say, I want my work out there. Because what are we afraid of? We're afraid of criticism. We're afraid of people saying, oh, I think your game sucks. But the big thing with game design is, and any type of thing that you're going to do is it doesn't hurt. You know, people on social media tend to be cruel. A lot of people on social media, they like to knock other people. So you can't really take a look at that. You can't show your piece of your idea, and then if people go ahead and say, you know, oh, it sucks, you're always going to have people saying that. You know, and if you take a look at those people, usually those are the people, they don't produce nothing themselves. They don't make nothing themselves. They're just experts. So Parasocial, put it out there. Be proud of it. I mean, even if it's 1 or 2 copies, think about it this way. You will have that on your shelf. And I don't know if you have kids or not, but you know, one day maybe your kids will play it, maybe your grandkids will play it, and think about that. I mean, be able to sit down and play a board game with your kids. It's like when I developed the original Dungeon Crawl, not the new TSR bastardized version, the original. I sat down and played with my wife and my kids, and my daughter kicked my ass in it. And she was like 9 years old at the time. And she took sadistic glee in beating me in my own game. And it's a memory that I have that I smile about because it's just a great memory to have. So Scott Mulder says, Hero Quest and Avalon Hill has been a lot of fun. You could probably tap into that base, creating new boards that are compatible to their game system. Very well possible. If the problem is this, is Hero Quest, do they allow the making of new boards that are compatible with their game? So that might be something we'd look into. Absolutely. It's a good idea. You know, and again, when you do stuff like that, you have to take a look at the full situation. Like with Wizards of the Coast, you know, they have an OGL, an open game license. The rules to create product underneath Dungeons and Dragons is very, very open. They're very open with it. They have it out there. I know the rules that I have to follow. Now, can I skirt those rules? Absolutely. If I don't want to produce D&D OGL based product, I can tell you right now, I can create modules all day long that are going to be AD&D or 5.0 or 5e compatible, and I ain't touching any of their IP. But with other companies, things like Avalon Hill as an example, you know, what you have is you have things like Hero Quest, and you got to be really careful with that kind of stuff. St. Coopter says the Parasocial, I took Squad Leader from Avalon Hill and converted it to 15mm Flames of War and Rick Toffin's War to Wings of Glory minis. Oh, what a cool game. Flames of War. I miss that game. Parasocial says, yeah, Americans invaded Canada about 4 times after the Civil War to conquer Canada and convert it into a free island for the price for they sold bonds to raise money and everything. See, that's the thing. Be creative. Be creative. Don't be afraid to go ahead and put your stuff out there. You know, there's nothing wrong with that. Parasocial says, I'd love to do a war game about defending Canada from the IRB. Why not? And it's the same thing when I had a publishing company. I'd have authors come in all the time. They'd say, I don't think my work is good enough. And I'd look at them and go, why not? Why not get your work published? You know, keep in mind one thing, and this is a good thing about the game. We have a bunch of people in chat right now. We all could sit at a table and play the same game and rate that game 1 to 10. And some people would rate it a 1. Some people would be over the moon and rate it 10 plus. People are different. And you got to be, this is the thing about game design. Yes, you want to create a product. You want to create a game that people are going to purchase, especially if you're in a business like we are. You don't want to go through all the trouble and the time and the effort and all this stuff to sit there and to end up having your not sell the game. I mean, we recently, the other day, and I'm going to talk about Venture Satanis for a minute. Venture Satanis, who produced the game called Chalt, and I might be mispronouncing it, but I believe it's called Chalt, just announced his retirement from game design. And one of the comments he made was he has a basement full of game books that his wife would love for him to get moving along. And see, that's one of the dangers of it, is that you also have to make sure that you scale properly. All right, I've made this game. How many outlay do I want to initially have? if you're not going to Kickstarter where you statically know if you fund how many people have funded, how many books you need to buy with maybe a certain percentage overage. In fact, me and Jim Wamper was talking on the phone just the other day, and we were talking about just in general game design and marketing and all kinds of stuff. And we started talking about that's exactly what you have to do. You have to take a look at, if I'm going to design a game, is that game going to be something that I'm going to be able to sell? And again, this is where playtesting can really help you out, because sometimes you have all the faith in the world of game X, and then you get into playtesting with it and you find out that you got a real dog on your hand and it just is not going to work. And sometimes, and this is the one of the big things about game publishing is you have to know when to say no. You may love it. It's your idea. You think it's going to be the next best thing in the world. It's going to be the next Access and Allies. But then you go ahead and you start playtesting it and you find out everybody goes, yuck. So you have to have that ability to kind of look at your work critically and go, you know what, it ain't as good as I thought. That's a big one. And that's one that a lot of people lack. You know, I don't know how many books Venger has in his basement. I wish him all luck in the world to get him moved. You know, he has a convention he does every year. Maybe he can move him as convention, maybe have a sale or something, or maybe start going to a few conventions and having a table set up. That might be a good idea, depending he has. But the last thing you want to do is have, you know, hundreds of books on a shelf or thousands of books on a shelf, and you're just staring at them and you're going, oh, geez, what am I going to do with these? Because you can really burn yourself. And this is where the overconfidence can also burn you. Don't be overconfident. Be confident in your game product. Play test it. Based on play testing, know if you want to continue with it. Play testing is positive and you continue with it. You're ready to go produce. Be realistic. How many do I really want to produce? Sometimes it's better to pay a little bit more per unit. Don't get suckered into that. But if you buy another 500, you can have it for this amount of money. And then they start, Chinese manufacturers are real good at this. They'll go, you know, you can save an average of blah, blah, blah percent and da-da-da, make this much more money. Well, the only way you can make that much more money is if you sell the copies you're buying from China. So you have to also take a look at marketing and what your marketing segment is. Do you have time for marketing? Do you have the budget for marketing? If you do have the budget for marketing, how are you going to market? You know, putting a $50 Facebook ad is not what you do. You have to have a consistent, constant, in people's face. And this is where other vloggers can help you, you know, you got to be able to give product away. You got to be able to send product off the vloggers, because what would really help is if you have a vlogger with 100,000 or 150,000 subs or more, and they're a game vlogger, or if they have like 75 or 80,000 subs and they're a game vlogger, get them a review copy, send them a letter with it saying, hey, you know, this is a review copy. I'd love to have your honest feedback. Have the confidence in your own product, because then if they get it and they do a review on it, that's a lot of eyeballs on your game. And you know, a lot of these vloggers live off of product being sent to them for free because they need it for their shows. They want a review. So YouTube vloggers are a really good marketing point. And get a website. You know, it's nice to have a Facebook page, but get a website. I'm a firm believer in websites. So, but yeah, so, you know, game design, like I said, it's really, really, you know, it's a lot of different things to a lot of different people. And it's just a matter, like I said, I'm kind of running out a little bit of space to talk about it, just because of the fact that, you know, at once you could talk about it for hours if you had, but there's so many aspects to it. I'm trying to touch it more briefly. Now, WizardCon 2025, we got good news today. And this is really super news. I had a talk with Bo at Critical Hit Soda, and Bo from Critical Hit Soda is going to have his soda truck there at WizardCon. Terry R says, I bought several OSR games because of YouTube reviews. Oh, yeah, that's exactly it, Terry. A lot of people do. A lot of people rely on, you know, why do you subscribe to a YouTuber? Why? Because you want to hear what they have to say. You trust what they have to say. And these vloggers get out there and they start doing reviews, and especially if they do fair reviews, fair and honest. I'd rather have a fair and honest review where a reviewer goes, this is just kind of a mediocre game. Thank you for letting me know. But also tell me why it's mediocre. If you think it's a great game, tell me why you think my game's great. You know? But WizardCon, Critical Hit Soda is going to be there at WizardCon in April. For those of you who don't know who they are, Critical Hit Soda is on Facebook. Go to their Facebook page, Critical Hit Soda, and they do like D&D fantasy-based themed sodas. And they got dozens of them. And I was talking to them today, and of all things, Darlene, who's going to be at WizardCon, designed their logo and their menu for them, of all things. He told me about that. I didn't know that. So, yeah, so that's really cool. And they have this unique thing. What they do is they have you roll this gigantic foam D20 when you order. And if you hit a critical hit, you get, I think, like 10% or something off your soda, or 20% or something. So it's a critical hit. You can roll a dice and see if you get a discount on your soda. But they're going to be there all 3 days of WizardCon in April. So that's really cool. Trying to think what else to discuss here besides that. So things are going good at WizardCon. You can go to tabletop events, look up WizardCon 2025, April 25th, 26th, and 27th. We've got the Timcast Experience, which is the custom 4-hour private game where you get fed, you get drinks, you get private time with Tim for 4 hours. You get a game module that me and Tim's working on specifically for the convention. He'll sign it. You can talk gaming with him. I'm sure Tim will tell you all about the old days of gaming and TSR and such. And Tim's a real hoot to play games with too. He's really, really cool. That is almost sold out now. So if you want to get on that, like I said, 4 hours, and you get a lot of bang for your buck with it. We're gonna have we are premiering a couple of games at WizardCon. We're premiering Gangbusters, which is the new game with it's the remake of the old game. My apologies. So we're premiering Gangbusters there. The developers of the National Role Playing Game Museum are going to do a presentation about the National Role Playing Game Museum going in Battle Creek on that weekend. We are also going to be doing a costume contest, a D&D theme or RPG themed costume contest for adults, and we're also doing one for little kids. We are dealing right now with Reaper Miniatures, with hopefully having them sponsor our convention to go ahead and do a mini painting contest for adults and kids. We have teamed up with RPG Market, Ed Lazor. He is going to be providing a lot of product, and we're going to be doing a large auction and also a raffle. So what you can do is you can buy tickets throughout the thing, and all through the convention we're going to be doing raffle callouts, so you can win cool stuff. And then also along with that, we're going to be doing a auction, and all proceeds are going to charity. Terry Art, yes, that's Mark's. Yep. Actually, Mark lives only about 40 miles away from me. I live in Battle Creek. He lives in Lansing. So, yeah, we're right in the middle of developing that. Scott, we need certs of Tim's killed. Yeah, exactly. You know what? That's a good idea. I'll make sure we provide I was killed by Timcast. I think that'd be really something cool to hang on your wall. St. Cuthbert says WizardCon is going to be a blast. Hotel rooms only $86 taxes. Yes, real quick on this. The hotel's rooms are normally like $156 a night. They made them $86 for the convention, for any convention goer. If you go to wizardcon.org, you can go to wizardcon.org, and what you can do is you can take a look, and there's links all over the place where you can go ahead and get information on the hotel and actually sign up for your hotel and get a great rate. They're really excited about the convention there. Yes, it is. It's a really cool game, and we're expanding it. We're making it better. We're making it a lot more to it, Terry. So if you're a Gangbusters fan, I think that you'll really, really like Gangbusters, the new one. Oh, you're near Pontiac. You ought to come out to WizardCon, man. WizardCon's in Kalamazoo, so only about 2 hours away from you, about an hour, 45 minutes, maybe 2 hours. So love to meet you in person. So St. Cuthbert says, I'm going to need death certificates for my game. Maybe you could have some website product on hand. We are. We actually already have a death certificate that you can buy. It's a generic death certificate that you can purchase on our web store at wizardtowergames.com. Click on store. You'll go to it and you'll be able to look at the death certificates. They come in packs of 6. And I'm already thinking about maybe making some different designs, maybe about 4 or 5 different designs for people who just want different kind of stuff. So yeah, we already got them. And plus Wizard Tower Games will have a booth there. And we're going to be having a lot of product there. So Scott Mulder says, yeah, she's going to sign up for the con and hotel links worked great. Thanks. Glad things are going smooth with it. Yeah, I'd love to see you come, Terry. Like I said, WizardCon, it's April 25th, 26th, 27th. We've got Timcast, Jim Wampler, Jeff D, Darlene, Merle Rasmussen. Those are some of the old school big names coming. We got Joe Block, the Greyhawk Grognard coming. We've got David Floor coming. We've got Mark Hunt coming. We've got let's say Joe Block. Already talked to him. We've got, oh man, who do we not have coming? That's the crazy thing about it. We have got, I really feel bad about this, but we've got just so many people coming. Timcast, Darlene, Jeff D, Paulie Kids doing a remote in from Australia. Rob Conley from Bat in the Attic Games, Jim Wampler, Joe Block, Chris Clark from Inner City Games is going to be there. Eric Tenkar, Tenkar's Tavern, Merle Rasmussen. We got author Stephen Lake coming. And that's just a preliminary list. We got like 13, 14 people already lined up, special guests. So we're planning on having them there. And then, and hopefully some more people. Love Merle's original. Merle's going to be there. And we know what Merle does when Merle shows up. Merle's in his tux. And what's Merle going to do? Merle's going to play Top Secret, of course. And we're going to have some interesting news about Merle and some other stuff happening then too, which I'm not going to talk about right now. So yeah, a lot of cool stuff is happening with WizardCon. If you go to WizardCon's Facebook page, we actually have kind of a tentative schedule of events. A lot of stuff happening over the weekend. If you're a vendor, we're going to be doing what we call vendor spotlights. It's going to be throughout the entire weekend. We're going to be going around to all the vendor tables and doing lives, talking to the vendors on our live stream for YouTube and also to our social media. Tell us about what you've got. We're going to showcase their product. We're going to make sure we get everybody involved. Everybody's going to be featured in. Staff is going to be well marked. We're going to have obvious marked t-shirts on. So if you need any help, you need information, everything, we have plenty of people there to help you out. Security is not going to be an issue. We have actually a couple off-duty Michigan State Police troopers going to be there helping out with security and everything, so everything's going to be safe. The place is heavily camered. Cameras are all operating, so for those of you who have valuable collectibles, if something wonky happens, we have a really good ability to take care of problems before they become a problem. We have private rooms to game in. The place has an on-site restaurant. Again, Critical Hit Soda is going to be right out the front door in their trailer. If you don't want to get the hotel food, the hotel said not a problem. You feel free to bring in food or DoorDash it, Uber Eat it. So if you're at a gaming table, what you do is just simply, all the gaming tables will be numbered. Just simply do Uber Eats or DoorDash and say, I'm at table 44. When they come in to deliver the food, we'll make sure we have a staff member grab the food for them and make sure that you're in contact with them and you get your food and with minimal muss and fuss. So lots of cool things. So yeah, it's going to be a real hoot. And we worked really a lot hard on it. We had a setback last year due to an individual, and that individual has tried to ruin this convention, but didn't work. The convention organizer who's in charge of the hotel is an old-time D&D gamer. He's actually a follower of Wizard Tower Games. He was following me. I didn't know he was at the time. And he's just really amped up about the convention too. And they're really happy. Hotel rooms, by the way, are selling out. So you might want to grab a hotel room while you can. They've had a huge convergence, he said, on hotels. I talked to him last week. So, yeah. So we're at 1 hour. I usually like to keep my videos about an hour. So I'm going to let everybody go. I appreciate everybody commenting and being on the video tonight. Next week, I may be doing a live at a game shop out of Grand Ledge, Michigan. They invited me tonight to do on my Facebook about possibly doing a live this show there. So I'm going to reach out to him tomorrow. We're going to set up, maybe not this Tuesday, but maybe the following Tuesday. Don't know, but within the next month or so, a couple weeks, I'm going to be doing a live stream from a game shop in Grand Ledge. And we're going to be talking about games and probably talking about the game shop owners, give a tour of the game shop. I think that'd be really cool. People will see what local game shops look like. So this is Don at Wizard Tower Games. Hope everybody has a good night. Happy gaming. And again, check out our website for WizardCon at wizardcon.org. Hit that like and subscribe button. Help support our channel. And we appreciate everybody. And we'll talk to you guys next week. Everyone, have a good night.